As we celebrate the 79th Independence Day of our country, I think this is the right time to recall and look at what the contribution of the Northeast was in this great struggle which had created history and which had become a very interesting part of human civilization. All of us we know that Assam and the Northeast began to become part of colonial British India from 1826 onwards. In 1824, when the British Army marched into the Brahmaputra Valley to flush out the Burmese invaders, they had made a commitment. They distributed a pamphlet saying that they have come here not to occupy the land, but only to flush out the Burmese invaders and return after establishing an appropriate government here. But because the East India Company was a commercial company, it was a trading company, they got the smell of, they got the scent of two very important items they were looking for. One was tea, the other was petroleum, and they forgot about their commitment and they stayed back. While they began occupying Assam and the Northeast from 1826 onwards, the first resistance to the expansion of the colonial power took place within less than 2 years of that. In November 1828, the first uprising was led by one 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝐿 𝐶𝐚 near Jorhat. He collected a group of about 400 young men, all armed with various kinds of weapons, and they began their march to the British center at that time, which was in 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝐿. Unfortunately, they were intercepted somewhere near Moriani today at a place called Deverapar, and because the British had better firepower with them, better arms and ammunition with them, they were overpowered, they were defeated, and 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝐿 and 3 others were arrested and sent to a jail in Rangpur, which is now in Bangladesh. What happened to 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝐿 Corps after that is not available anywhere. A pamphlet, a booklet which was published by the government of Assam in 1987 said that nothing was known about 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝐿 Core after he was confined to a jail in Rangpur in 1828. 2 years later, in 1830, another group of patriots, they launched a massive attack on the British station at 𝐶𝐶𝐬𝐿, and they set on fire the armory of the British on the eastern side of the 𝐶𝐶𝐬𝐿 Pukhuri, the Bor Pukhuri at 𝐶𝐶𝐬𝐿. Again, they were defeated, and two of them, Pioli Phukon and Jiuram Dulia Borua, were arrested and hanged on the 24th of September 1830 in 𝐶𝐶𝐬𝐿. This is the first instance of hanging of two patriots, two persons who fought for their motherland in the entire northeast of India. If we jump another 9 years down, in 1839, on the 28th of January 1839, a very courageous, very brave young person called 𝐒𝐴𝐵 who was popularly known as Ronua 𝐒𝐴𝐵 in Assamese parlance, he launched a massive attack on the British station at Hodia, and they wiped out the entire British station. About 80 Hindustani sepoys belonging to the British, they were killed, massacred, and Colonel Adam White, who was the most important, most powerful British officer for entire Upper Assam, he was cut into pieces. It's a huge incident. You don't find in any part of the country such an incident where a group of patriots, a group of young people who love their country, had attacked a British station in such a manner and had wiped it out altogether. About 1 week later, forces were sent from Dibrugarh, and Ronua 𝐒𝐴𝐵, alias 𝐒𝐴𝐵 was hunted down and killed like anything. Several bullets were fired upon his body and also on the body of his brother-in-law on the banks of the Monua Dihing river, and he attained martyrdom then. The British were looking for land for tea, and all the uplands surrounding the Brahmaputra valley were very important for them. They looked at what is today Arunachal Pradesh, they looked at what is today Mizoram, they looked at parts of Nagaland, they looked at parts of Meghalaya. They also wanted access between the Brahmaputra valley and eastern Bengal. They wanted to build a road for what is Meghalaya today. They had in 1826 also occupied, on the same day, they had also occupied Manipur. Remember, the Treaty of Yandabu of 24th of February 1826 had led to the British occupation of Assam as well as of Manipur. Now they wanted a road from Manipur to Assam. They had to march through, and they wanted to occupy the Naga hills. Massive resistance was put up by the Nagas, particularly Angami people surrounding Kohima and Kholama. That's a huge story. in what is Meghalaya today, it was 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝐡𝐲𝐚𝐩 who put up a brave fight, because he was initially cheated. He was lured into signing an agreement allowing the British to pass through his territory. When he found that asking for a pathway for some space to make a road, they were looking at occupying the entire Khasi Hills. A battle took place and 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝐡𝐲𝐚𝐩 was arrested and was sent to jail in Dhaka. He attained martyrdom. He died in a jail in Dhaka without getting any medical care. In 1857, as the entire subcontinent was burning in what was subsequently called the First War of Independence, the sparks of the First War of Independence came to Assam, extended to Assam. It was brought to Assam by none other than a great patriot, Maniram Dewan, who believed that the British trading company had to be hit hard where it hurts them the most. He inspired the Assamese people to take to tea plantation, to take to trade and commerce, to extraction of coal, to extraction of salt, and to extraction of timber, so that the local people, the indigenous people, could fight the trading company with trade, with commerce, with economic power in their hand. And when he extended the fire of the 1857 struggle to the northeast, they fixed a date, particular date, the Maha-Ashtami day of 1857, on which date, right from Hodia to Dhubri, they would strike on all the British stations and offices, and they would simultaneously attack all the British officers posted in Assam. Unfortunately, that plan came into the notice of the British, and Maniram Dewan was arrested in Calcutta and brought to Jorhat, and he was hanged on the 26th of February in 1858. Along with him was hanged the right-hand man, who was called Pioli Borua. In the same context, about 10 to 12 people from Assam were sent off to the Andaman, and they were imprisoned there. Two ladies of Assam, one was called Lumboi Aido, and the other, the name doesn't come to me at this moment. They were penalized, and they were punished for taking part in the 1857 rising. We know only of Rani of Jhansi taking part in the 1857 uprising. We do not know of these two Assamese ladies. In the Barak Valley in Assam, over 185 sepoys who had deserted the British forces. They were killed in different series of incidents. There is a beautiful memorial at a place called Latu Malegar in Karimganj, right on the Bangladesh border today, which is a memorial for 26 brave soldiers who had deserted the British army and joined the ranks of the 1857 uprising, and they attained martyrdom, but not before killing a British officer called Major Byng there on the 18th of December 1857. This is a huge incident. Very people know about this. They should visit and go and find out these places. If you look at Mizoram, very significant. Mizoram was a fertile land for tea cultivation. The British considered it so, and they started occupying the Mizo Hills, the Lushai Hills of that time, gradually from the south, from the Chittagong side, from the east, from Eastern Bengal side, and from Barak Valley on the Assam side. The local chieftains of the Mizo Hills put up tremendous resistance to stop the British occupation of their land. We have a list of great heroes, great chiefs of the Mizo Hills, of the Lushai Hills, who resisted and attained martyrdom. At the moment, two names come to my mind. One was Pasaltha Kuwangchara. He fought like anything. He fought like a great hero. He fought and he killed a number of soldiers who belonged to the British army, and ultimately he attained martyrdom in the Mizo Hills. There is a beautiful play which was broadcast by All India Radio in Hindi and other languages on the heroic deeds on the patriotism of Pasaltha Kuwangchera. There was this lady who was a chieftain, a lady chieftain of a small Mizo territory towards the south of what is Mizoram today. Her name was Ropui Liani. Ropui Liani fought very bravely. Her men killed a number of British soldiers who were all Hindustani sepoys at that time, and ultimately she was captured and was sent to the jail in Chittagong. She died in the Chittagong jail at the age of 57. She was not keeping well. She was asked to write down a good conduct declaration saying that I would not fight any longer against the British. She refused. She said, I will die for this country, for my land, for my sacred land, to protect my land, then to signing and surrendering. She is probably the eldest woman martyr of this country, Ropui Liani. If you look at Manipur, Manipur became part of British India in 1826 following the Treaty of Yandabu, when the British forces had expelled the Burmese invaders from there too. But unlike Assam, which British directly occupied, Manipur was placed as a protectorate, as a subsidiary government, a local government was put there. But the younger generation of Manipur, led by Bir Tikendrajit, he was a Jubaraj, he was a prince, he refused to accept the British suzerainty over Manipur, and they started revolting. They started demanding that the British should give up their cover on their occupation of Manipur, and that the kingdom of Manipur should be restored to its original form. The British wanted to negotiate, but they put a condition that before the negotiations, Bir Tikendrajit has to be handed over to the British. The king refused to do that, and a war took place. The British declared a war on the Manipuris. It came to be known as the Anglo-Manipuri War of 1891. As the war broke out, the great patriots of Manipur, led by Bir Tikendrajit, they executed 5 top British officers, including the then Chief Commissioner of Assam, the then British agent to Manipur, 2 army officers, and another senior officer who was an assistant to the Chief Commissioner. These 5 top officers were executed, were killed by the freedom fighters of Manipur in 1891. Such an incident had not happened anywhere in the subcontinent. After the war broke out, forces of the British came in a large number into Manipur, and about 400 to 500 brave Manipuris laid down their lives fighting the British in the 1891 Anglo-Manipuri War. After the war was over, British increased their strength in Manipur. They sent in more forces. Bir Tikendrajit and 4 others were hanged to death in the heart of Imphal, outside what they call the fort of Imphal, and 21 others were packed off to Andamans for almost for life. Bir Tikendrajit is probably only person of a royal family who was hanged, executed by the British in India. More important is the fact that today is the date, 13th of August was the date on which Bir Tikendrajit and General Thangal, he was called Thangal General, who was of 80 years of age. He had retired as the general of the Manipur king. He came back when the war broke out, and he took charge of the army. He fought a great battle, and he was killed. He was finally captured, and he was hanged on the 13th of August 1891. No second incident can be found in the country, in the history of the freedom struggle of India, in the history of the anti-colonial struggles of India, when 80-year-old man was hanged. Thangal General is the eldest martyr of this country. This has to be always remembered. Coming to Nagaland, to what is Nagaland today, the resistance that the people of the Angami tribe in particular, the Angami community in particular, needs to be actually rewritten, and all the incidents have to be documented and brought out in a book form. The Angamis, they defended their country, they defended the Angami region in such a way that it led to a series of 3 battles of Konoma. Konoma was their headquarters. 3 battles of Konoma, one after the other, and finally Konoma fell. The Nagas were defeated, but not before the brave Nagas had killed at least 3 British officers in that particular battle. There is no actual account of how many people had killed, but there's anybody can guess when one visits Konoma, talks to the local population there, that at least 100 brave young Nagas must have laid down their lives for the defense of the Naga hills in that series of battles of Konoma. If you go to Konoma today, in 1991, I think in the later part of the 20th century, they were observing the 100 years of the fall of Konoma. They had erected a tower, a memorial on the top of the hill, and said, next time somebody comes to occupy Konoma and the Naga hills, they have to defeat us at that height. That is the spirit of freedom, that is the spirit of the Nagas, the spirit of the northeastern people, to protect their land and protect the sanctity of this land. If you come to the Assam Valley, to the Brahmaputra Valley, I would not go into detail, but 2 or 3 incidents stand out. One is particularly a particular day, that was the 20th of September 1942, in the peak of the Quit India movement. All the top leaders of the country were put behind bars. The leadership went to the common people. In Assam, the 20th of September was fixed as the date on which all the people would come in Satyagraha, and they will hoist flags, the tricolor, on the British offices of the police stations and other government buildings. At a place called Gohapur, beyond Tejpur, at a place called Gohapur, a young girl of 14 years of age Kanaklata Borua, led the satyagraha, and 3 bullets of the British police pierced through her body and she was instantly killed. She became a martyr at the age of 14. Though she fell down, the second person standing behind her, Mukunda Kakoti, he did not allow the sacred flag to fall on the ground. He picked it up and he raised the voice, Vande Mataram, and he also took 2 bullets on him. That happened at that happened at Gohapur. At Dhekiajuli, another about 110 kilometers away from Gohapur, to the west of Tejpur, at least 25 people were killed when police opened fire on the satyagrahis. There were women, there were tribal people, there was a young girl of 12 years of age. Her name was Tileshwari Borua. If you look at the records today, look at all the government records, the government of India had brought out a directory of martyrs. Her name is yet to be put in there, but the Prime Minister of India had finally declared in March 2021 in his visit to Dhekiajuli that Tileshwari Borua, the 12-year-old girl, is the youngest martyr of India. She shares this honor with a young 12-year-old boy of Odisha, of Dhenkanal district, a boy called Baji Raut, who was killed in a similar manner when he refused to take a boat of his father, take some British soldiers across a river there. He was killed with 2 bullets by British there. So Tileshwari Borua of Assam, along with a young boy of Odisha, she holds the distinction of being the youngest martyr of the India's freedom struggle. Would you believe, in the Dhekiajuli incident, 2 persons who laid down their lives, one was a bhikhari, a beggar, and one was a sannyasi. No, in no part of this country you will find a beggar and a sannyasi also getting killed in police firing. That is the spirit of the people of Assam towards independence, towards this land. In 1942, Assam had to fight 2 battles. One was the fight against the British imperial power. The other was the Second World War, which had arrived in Assam. The Japanese were marching into Assam and Manipur. In the middle of that, the women were raped by the occupying forces of the Allied Army. There were numerous incidents of that. And then the Patriots, they wanted to disrupt. They disrupted the communication system. They blew off a number of railway tracks. They derailed trains. They killed British soldiers, and they cut off the communication network and the bridges and other important installations. In such an incident, in a village called Kokira in Gwalpara district, a young boy called Nidhanu Rajbanghi was a poor boy who only had an oxen, who he used to take for ploughing the land of other people and earn a living there. His oxen was snatched away and he was killed, and 3 bullets were sprayed on Nidhanu Rajbanghi. Similar incidents will find all across. Going back to 1861, in 1857, as we know, the first war of independence, after that a lot of changes took place. The British increased taxation on the people. Everything was taxed. Even a pukhuri was taxed. Even trees which bore fruits were taxed. If you have a mango tree, you have to pay 1 rupee. If you had a kathal tree, you have to pay 2 rupees, like that. If you had a pukhuri, a tank where you had big fish there, you have to pay more, and so on. And the farmers of Assam, they protested, and in one particular incident at a place called Phuloguri in Nagaland district, at least 39 people were killed in police firing in 1861, in October 18, 1861. That was and 2 people were apparently hanged, and about 10 to 15 people were sent off to Andamans. That was the first incidence of a peasant uprising against the British government in India. In other places of the subcontinent, the peasant uprisings took place, but those were against landlords and against Mahajans. But in Assam, that was directly against the British government. In 1894, on the 28th of January, another big incident took place at a place called Pothorughat, not very far away, 2 hours from Guwahati in Dharang district, where in a firing on unarmed peasants, unarmed farmers, at least 140 farmers were, poor farmers, illiterate farmers, were killed by the British forces. Firing was ordered because people are demanding that the tax should not be increased on their land, the tax should not be increased on their trees, the tax should be increased on their homestead land, and so on. That story, that tragic story of Pothorughat, is as big as the massacre of Jallianwala Bagh. But these stories have remained away from the public eye, away from the public discussions, away from the public forums. I pay my tributes to all the martyrs, all the great heroes of entire the northeastern region who had laid down their lives and made great sacrifices for the emergence of this great country as the most vibrant democracy of the world on the 15th of August 1947.